First Things First is sponsored by Gillette, the best a man can get.
Welcome back to the show. Sports Illustrated senior writer Chris Mannix on very little sleep is joining us this morning.
When did you filed a column in the middle of the night, man?
Like 2 a.m. Yeah, you guys are on less sleep as I am, but I am.
Extended handshake.
Welcome back, man. Welcome
It's a great
back.
column. People should read it. SI.com.
All right.
Made a great contribution to the show this year, too.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
You got your review coming up.
Oh, it is. Is there a bonus involved? Okay.
Let's take a look at how it all went down last night. Raptors at Warriors, Game 6. Pick this up in the third when Klay Thompson takes a very awkward fall. Did not look good. He had to leave the game in pain with what we learned later was a torn ACL. And he was playing great up until that point. 30 points in 32 minutes. All right, fast forward to the fourth. Warriors still down. But down just one. Steph Curry has a chance to take the lead, but he can't get it to go, and that would essentially end it. Fans can't believe it. Steve Kerr and Steph can't believe it. Raptors believe it. They win the game 114-110. Toronto Raptors, your NBA champions, first title in franchise history. Kawhi Leonard winning his second Finals MVP, and oh, Canada, indeed. Chris Mannix, how remarkable was the Raptors dethroning Golden State this season?
Given the status of Kevin Durant, I don't think it was that remarkable. You know, this Raptors team, with the addition of Kawhi Leonard, it enhanced them. But one of the things they had going for them all season long was that the core of a team that had been together for multiple years was intact. And when you have that kind of chemistry, even though LeBron had knocked you out year after year, you'd be able to incorporate a star player a little bit easier, even a second star player like a Marc Gasol a little bit easier, because you knew each other. You had an identity based on everything in years past. And once Durant went out of the lineup, I think it evened the odds completely with these two teams.
Well, and so it wasn't that surprising to you because Durant was out of there, but to me, it doesn't dampen how impressive it was. No. Because we cannot prove, we can have ideas, we can have opinions, we can't prove that the Raptors wouldn't have won the championship if Durant were healthy. Like, I think it's fair to do a little mini asterisk on finals losses based on injury, but not on finals wins. You know, we talk a lot about the 2015 finals where the Warriors went to 6 when the Cavs didn't have Kyrie or Kevin Love. We do not know if they would have... that they couldn't have beaten that Cavs team with Kyrie and Kevin Love. So while we might not hold that loss against LeBron and the Cavs, we shouldn't lessen the win for Golden State. Toronto, their ability to go 17-5 this year, in the 22 games Kawhi Leonard didn't play. Their ability to be 1-1 against Orlando, make adjustments, not lose another game in that series. To be down 2-1 to Philly, make adjustments, win it in 7. Down 0-2 to Milwaukee, make adjustments, win 4 straight. Tied 1-1 with the Golden State, make adjustments, win 3 out of 4. That shows you depth. It shows you savvy veteran leadership and players and excellent coaching. And it shows you they were, over the course of this season, the best team in the league that went through a gauntlet to get to this get to this NBA.
I'm not going to overemphasize the KD injury or the other ones, because when Golden State won, I didn't overemphasize the injuries that they benefited from. Them being healthy helped them win the 3 titles that they did win. But let's talk about what Toronto did during the regular season, because this is a franchise that said, we're all in this year. We're taking a chance. When they trade for Gasol late in the season, how is he going to fit into this team that you talk about? Through the last several years, they developed this bond, this chemistry. They trade some of that chemistry. C.J. Miles, critical guy, shooting threes off the bench. They trade him away and a couple other pieces. They lose OG at the end, Anobi off the bench. Man, that powerful young player who could defend people like Kevin Durant, Klay. They end up losing him. Their ability to play a different style. Serge Ibaka, who's been a starter. That could have been a combustible situation. He's coming off the bench. They don't win that without him. Fred VanVleet, we get him off the street, not drafted. He hits an NBA record, what, 16 threes to beat Robert Horry and J.R. Smith. Man, they collectively, over the last 6 months, they have done things that champions would do. It just happens to be it's in Toronto.
I think, too, that the reason it's less surprising is that this Warriors team, their vulnerability was on the defensive end. I mean, they were 13th in defensive efficiency this year. All their previous finals years, they ranked in the top 5. That's what I was noticing down the stretch of this game. It wasn't that Steph missed a shot here or some of the guys committed turnovers, that they couldn't get stops. And that was a problem for this Warriors team all season long.
So then take it back to before the season started. When the season started, I don't think many people had Toronto as the team that was going all the way. We were talking about Giannis and what the Celtics were going to do and what the Sixers were going to do. And the Raptors were always just a team in the mix. How improbable was a run all the way up and beating the Warriors was it for the Toronto Raptors?
Jenna, I'll take a step further. Toronto was under the radar to a degree before the season started and before the playoffs started. I didn't see it. There weren't a lot of people saying Toronto's going to come out of the East.
Well, no, I think like I did, and everybody at SI did as well with our finals predictions.
Going into the playoffs,
entering the playoffs.
Okay,
I think it was most of us.
My apologies for not being aware of that, but I feel like there was at least more discussion around the 3 teams you mentioned. Milwaukee with their 60 wins and league MVP, Boston with their all that talent, but just hadn't achieved at the level. But Kyrie told us to wait till the playoffs. And Philly was like, man, their starting lineups only played 10 games together, but they have 4 potential all-stars if they get it all together. I think there was, they did, I don't want to say sneak up on you, but they were at least underrated clearly throughout this year and going into the playoffs. They didn't sneak up on you.
Well, Mannix and a few other people did pick Toronto. But, Jenna, you are correct. There were 3 sexier stories when we started the playoffs in the East alone. They were 3 sexier. Toronto was not in that discussion. But also, to the people that cover the game's credit, they didn't have a lot of chemistry playing together. We hadn't seen them. So the team they became in the playoffs, because they were forever evolving. Last night, we just saw the last chapter of it. They were evolving. First game against the Magic. They lose. They're down in the Philly series. They're evolving as a team. The Giannis series, man, they're down 0-2 against the best team in the NBA. So they're evolving as a team. So we're supposed to miss that part.
The reason I believed in Toronto to start the season was because they were a 59-win team that on paper got better. The question mark was Kawhi and his health and what was he going to look like coming back after a year off. But he came back and he looked great. And the reason I believed in Toronto in the playoffs is that with Kawhi healthy, you just go back to the last game he played in the postseason with San Antonio, that conference finals game where they were up, what, 20 on Golden State in the first half? He goes down with injury and everything unravels for the Spurs. So you knew coming in, this guy was a great playoff performer.
I know that this just happened, but you can't help but spin this forward a second and say, is this the same team we see next year? Can they run this back with is this the same Raptors team?
You could honestly have, like, if Kawhi leaves and Masai Ujiri stays, which again we don't know because he could wind up in Washington, this could be like Pascal Siakam and a bunch of guys not making the playoffs next year. That's the reality of this situation. They've always known in Toronto that if Kawhi left, the whole thing could come down.
But they were okay with 100%. Like that's the reason they were the team that, Boston had the opportunity to trade Jaylen Brown and others for Kawhi. They didn't want to because they weren't trying to have a hard reset. Toronto knew the DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry Raptors had a ceiling. Even if LeBron goes west, they have a ceiling. So they trade for Kawhi, hoping best case scenario this and he stays. But even if you get close to this and he doesn't stay, what that allows you to do is build around your young guys. But if he does stay, Jenna, Chris, if he stays, they have to be the favorites to win the title, right?
Yes, but I would be very, very surprised about that. I spent a lot of time in Canada. My brother still lives up there, married to a Canadian after coaching there. My son plays in the CFL, been up there 7 years. Their summers are real short. All right? Enjoy. All right? Toronto Raptors, enjoy the celebration, enjoy the parade, enjoy the champagne.
Because you don't think Kawhi's coming back?
I just said the summers are short.
Okay.
And I would say Kawhi Leonard, his stint there in Canada
could be similar to the summer.
Exactly.
And if it was, it's worth it.
Just real quick, like Masai Ujiri, since he got there, has been kind of chomping at the bit to rebuild anyway. Like Dwayne Casey just kept winning too many games for them to tear the things apart. So he has been chomping at the bit to rebuild. He'd prefer to keep this whole group together, but if he stays, I don't think he would be so. I think rebuilding would be okay with him.
And if you rebuild, you rebuild around Pascal Siakam,
Yes.
a guy who in Game 5 got benched for the final 9 minutes because his coach wasn't pleased with his defense. Did he hang his head? Did he get pouty? No. He gave you 26 and 10, the biggest basket in Raptors history, and he goes into next year, even though they don't have Kawhi, as in the argument for best young player in the entire Eastern Conference.
All right, good stuff. Mannix, stick around. Coming up was last night the end of the Warriors dynasty. That's next on First Things First.
I'm glad you acknowledge Boston's extraordinary talents going into
Second best shot, man.